Preach. He flew to Blizzard.
He did?
Yeah. So he basically said, listen, I want to come over. I will pay for it. Can I have access to, stuff? Blizzard ended up saying, yes, you can. And, well, that's how it happened. The third era of World of Warcraft. Yep. It's not the third. It's the fourth, goddammit.
Yeah.
But yes, this whole idea, anyway, that Dragonflight is the start of a new era, that represents a fundamental change in the team, not only for development, but also for communications and marketing, both of which have obviously got significantly better. So we're already seeing some of that. But Preach basically wanted to know exactly how the team has changed internally and what this means for the future of the game, not just for Dragonflight. So this is one of the topics that will be covered when these interviews come out. I think it's been fairly obvious so far, looking at a whole bunch of stuff for this expansion, that it is a bit of a new era, that they're treating things differently.
Yeah, there's, like I said a little bit earlier, it might not be super apparent until people actually play Dragonflight, but there's a lot of stuff and I don't want to come across like an asshole here, but there's a lot of like the minutiae that kind of make like playing through Dragonflight and like seeing how classes work and playing through the content and the side quests going, this is different. I can't quite put my finger on it, but this is definitely different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways about even like on the basic level is dragon riding. At no point in any time of World of Warcraft history, except for maybe vanilla when, the sky was the limit, or, the sky wasn't even the limit and you were like a kid going, wow, you could do anything in this world. If at any point after, say, Kata, they said dragon riding, I'm like, that's never going to happen. In no leaks would I ever want, yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
you
actually,
could ride a dragon around. Yeah, and stop lying to me. Go back to, whatever, making up shitty fake leaks on MMO Champ, loser. But then it's like, oh, it's happening. And then you look and go, oh, there's no systems that are like arbitrarily going to wreck people's access to content. Okay, cool. Oh, they're doing the Dracula Evoker, even though anyone could have told them that's a pretty bad fit for World of Warcraft aesthetically back in, a couple of years ago. And they're doing it anyway because they say this is what we think is cool. Okay, sweet. What's that? There's a load of like really like, I don't want to say shitty jokes because I laugh at loads of them, but like kind of just, I don't want to say like low effort because they're really well like executed, but just jokes that are like, oh yeah, you're just taking the goofiness of Warcraft and running with it. And you're like, oh, this is holistically, it feels like a completely different experience. I'm like, oh yeah, these are different people making a different game with the same kind of gameplay core. So
yeah,
it's a very different game. I think people will feel that when they play it, but I find it really hard to describe without going into like hyper super detailed specifics. Because I could even talk about it in combat stuff. It's like the game just feels different in terms of like how they philosophically design resources. And you're like, oh, you can just smash buttons all day long. You never have to like wait for resources. It's all about pressing the right button and not waiting for the button to press. That's interesting. Oh, this is weird.
Yeah, I have to wonder if this game will start to clash with some. I think it's generally changing in an almost universally positive way.
It's better that they make the game they want
Yes.
they want to make, and then that will actually have a little bit of soul in it, a little bit of kind of effort, a little bit of, oh, you can feel the developer's creativity and love and care in this, rather than we're going to try to make what Chris Metzen thought was cool, even though none of us find it cool. Because that's never going to work.
That's one fucking way of putting it.
Yeah, I mean that is literally true. You can't run an emulation layer of trying to be the World of Warcraft as back in the day. You have to change or die basically, adapt or die, and they've chosen to adapt. As to whether that'll actually work out, only time will tell. But they have a pretty compelling experience at the end of it. Like that's kind of interesting, but they're committing to it.
Yeah, I like Night Stalker pointing out the endless complaining threads about Dragonflight being just the worst. Or Dragon Riding even. Yeah, Dragon Riding being just the worst. Which is always funny, because it's like, people aren't used to a game that's like second to second fun. That's not the loop that MMOs tend to run on. This is Blizzard actually trying to make a fun game, which is weird.
That's the thing that I do find a little bit concerning, and that's where the Game 1 versus Game 2 that Ian talked about in regards to the game they're making versus the game players are playing, that's going to be a really strong clash in Dragonflight, because people are going to be like, I love dragon riding, this is really good, and people are going to go, but I want to get from A to B by hitting the auto run button and then going and grabbing a cup of tea. You're like, play the game the developers made or go play a different game.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately the that's the ultimatum you have to make, where sometimes that doesn't go well and you say, well, this is our game, go play a different one. And then everyone does, you're like, ah, shit. And that's kind of a fear they have to run into, or I think they'll have to deal with. But I think whenever you're going, well, what's going to make it actually more fun? And Dragon Ride, I think, is the answer. Versus, no, this is unequivocally good for the game. Is it, is there a different timeline where you don't do that and you do other things and it's better for a version of it? Maybe. But it's still like, no, this game is more fun now.
Well, I guess what I think about is, they're willing to do dragon riding now. Okay, what does that mean they're willing to do in the future? I mean, will dragon riding, say, get advanced into the general world design? Will it just turn into, like, how flying works? And then it's getting a bit closer to a game like Guild Wars 2, which has radically more enjoyable traversal gameplay than World of Warcraft has, right? So if they're willing to do that, and they're willing to have, like, photography quests and like rock climbing quests, well, how far will they push that? Because right now, this is them kind of hacking these things in to a game engine that didn't really support them, right? So what's it going to be like when they start scoping and developing new features after they've built their foundations with Dragonflight? I guess that's what I'm more and more interested in, because if this is some sort of different era for Blizzard, well, this is an expansion that was conceived during the third era of Legion through Shadowlands, right? And evidently at some point they realized, okay, this shit is not really working. You got to remember, Shadowlands would have been entering production around the same time the Battle for Azeroth was coming out. So whenever you saw those really pig-headed posts about the Azerite reforging cost, that was when they were making Shadowlands, right? Because it's about 2 years for the actual, dev process, which does mean, yes, the, World of Warcraft 11.0 is in development right now, which I've seen some people say this is like, oh, wow, the next expansion is already in development. It's like, no, it's always worked like that. That's how it works.
Pre-production.
So that's, I guess that's the thing. He's talking about this new era, these new philosophies. Okay, what will get greenlit for 11.0 now that 11.0 is being conceived when we are starting this new era instead of the tail end of an old one? Because I think Dragonflight, like in some ways it's a defensive expansion. It's quite noteworthy at how it is experimenting in a few neat ways, but mainly not doing things that people haven't liked, right?
Which in itself is pretty, like, actually transformational.
Yeah, so then I wonder, okay, well, once that foundation is established, what the fuck are we going to get? Could be cool. I mean, what sorts of traversal gameplay are they going to be able to do once they've learned their lessons from dragon riding? What other things will there be? I mean, I don't friggin' know, but it seems like a more potentially fun future than if we just continued along the same lines that we've been going in. Yeah,
and that's why I think, like, I would never call Dragonflight like a World of Warcraft 2.0, because it would be a World of Warcraft 4.0, because Kata was 2 and Legion was 3. Yep. But this idea of it is definitely them going, what is going to work now? What's different? What's going to work? What didn't work? Can we avoid that? I think that's the thing, where I hope people respond well, not because I particularly think, Dragonflight is, this is the perfect World of Warcraft expansion for me and how I expect it to go. It is definitely veering a little bit away from what I traditionally like. And I don't mean like the Chris Metzen metal orcs and Taurens ripping each other pieces, that kind of stuff. I just mean it's like it's not super down my alley, but it's like I can really appreciate the craft they have in it and the fact they're trying stuff, and like literally all the best of them, because they're really actually putting their heart and soul into expansion. And like they did that with Shadowlands, but a little bit. I feel like they held back a little bit, and now they're trying to do it in a way that feels more natural. Dragonflight, like, sweet. If this is a new era of World of Warcraft, then yeah, go for it. Go for it. Give us your worst. Hope
yeah. So with that, then story development.